everybody, and welcome to another episode of Swan TV. Thank you for joining us today. I'm joined by Monica Cass, who is the founder of Par Avion. I think I pronounced that correctly. We shall see in a minute. But Monica, thank you and welcome. And thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you.
Good stuff. So, as I said, you are the founder of Par Avion. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you came to set up the company?
I can try.
That's fine. Trying is absolutely fine.
Basically, my business partner and I both have backgrounds in design, but very different backgrounds. So Simon comes from kind of a contract drafting and furniture making background. He would probably class himself as sort of kind of a working class sort of woodworker. Yeah. Who taught, partly self-taught, but also taught in kind of technical schools. Nothing too grand. And I think he would love to have a higher claim, but I think a lot of his experience comes from working in vintage furniture shops and restoration places. Whereas my background is in architecture. Yeah. And is very, it's kind of the opposites of Simon's in a way, is very technical and is very theory-based in a way. So yeah. Simon's kind of the practical side, and I'm perhaps the the whirlwind, I don't know, crazy idea side, who knows. Whirlwind. Yeah.
You must complement each other. You must complement each other quite nicely though with that.
Absolutely. And I think so what we had in common in those two different backgrounds was that I also made furniture at some point in my career. And I also focus on a level of detail in my architecture work. So I focus on lighting design, which is such a very niche part of architecture. And so combining kind of the detail side and the kind of knowing how to make things side, we were able to combine those two things to create this company. And to be fair, the company existed before we named it and everything else. So Simon actually made these stools about 15 years ago. Okay. And gave them to friends and family. It was just sort of a one-off experiment.
Just something nice to do, wasn't it?
I mean, he makes loads of things. Like the house he lives in is dotted with all sorts of handmade furniture. Every like nook and cranny has a custom piece in it. Just another experiment. And so, but I saw these stools kind of in friends' houses, in his mother's house, and several in his own house, and said, that's something different and unique, and you know, I bet we could make something with that. We could make them sellable.
Absolutely. And how talk to me about the architecture. How did you get yourself into the architecture? Where did you start your journey there?
Sure. So you might be able to tell from my accent, I'm from the United States. I went to university in New Orleans, where I got my architecture degree over 7 years. It wasn't a 7-year course, but interrupted by a hurricane, which you might
so you were there during that.
I was finishing my degree during Hurricane Katrina, and one of the sob stories for me was that my the house I was renting at the time was completely submerged under about 6 feet of water.
Oh wow!
Which my thesis was inside.
Oh no!
So I had to redo my thesis. I actually took a break and worked in some architecture firms in a different state for a couple of years, and then came back to New Orleans to complete my degree, re-sit my thesis and everything. But that's what kind of led me on the path that took me over to the UK is after working in some firms and redoing my thesis in a completely different way, I realized that I wanted to work with my hands more. I wanted to do more detail-oriented stuff. And when I got the opportunity to come to the UK to work on exhibition design at the Sainsbury Centre, actually, that was exactly, you know, the start is designing, you know, large scale exhibitions down to the nitty gritty detail of how a case is built. And it was little details like that that really interested me. And I think that's what works well with me and Simon is you kind of tell him how you want things to work and he figures it out.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a bit of both as well. I think you can see it in the physical products as well as the stools. If you've seen them, they're wooden frames with woven seats. Yeah. And so Simon is very much about the joinery and the wood and how it connects and how it works together and how it expands and contracts, and where every grain should go. But for me, I'm more interested in that woven part, the kind of soft and flexible. And that's something that I've been focused on for the past 7 or 8 years, was just studying the seat weaving and the different techniques, and actually bringing back new techniques that had been lost for 20 plus years, maybe longer.
Now you're bringing it back, bringing it back to the masses. Bringing it
a
back
little
to
at
the
a time.
So you guys have got a massive focus on sustainability, ethical business, which is partly why you're here with us today to talk about as part of the sustainability series. Well, can you tell me a little bit more about the company, what you guys are doing towards sustainability as an organisation, and why you focused on having a sustainable brand, why that was important to you?
Sure. I think, first of all, just the word sustainability is, right now, we're thinking about it in environmental senses, but I think to start off with, we thought of it as a business word. It's something that would last through trends, through seasons, through fast culture. So for us, it was, what can we do from the very beginning that would set this company apart from other companies also making furniture? Design aside, everyone has a unique design. Well, most everyone. IKEA aside, maybe. Yeah,
absolutely.
But we obviously take our designs from other designers. We take design elements from some of the furniture greats and architecture greats. So nothing is really that original, but to do something a little bit differently, taking into account where things come from, why they are made and how they are made, so that they last a bit longer, and so that our company can be proud of what we make as well. So just to not go into it too much, but for example, a lot of Danish furniture was made from teak, which is absolutely beautiful, but it takes over 100 years to grow a teak tree to the maturity that it would take to chop it down and then create furniture out of it. So somebody who grows a teak farm in, let's say, Indonesia, doesn't live from seed to final crop to see their product turned into furniture. And it's beautiful wood, but it is very, I think in a climate like Indonesia, it probably thrives. But I think if we tried to grow it here, it would be very, very difficult, obviously. The climate does not work with it. We don't have the right weather. So for us, it was more about using native species that had a smaller carbon footprint, that also reflected back to what is part of the culture here in the UK. So for us, oak is, it's the British wood. It's you have your ancient oak woodlands, and oak trees are also incredibly old and can take a while to mature, but not as long as teak, and is still incredibly strong and beautiful. So that was primarily the wood we wanted to use. We knew we could get it locally, and not just in the UK, but we can get it kind of just down the road in Snetterton or Suffolk or something like that. There's loads of timber farmers who work with one-off trees that are felled in local farms. They're taken straight to these small timber yards, cut up and dried for a few years, and that's exactly what we're looking for: small batch, unique pieces of local timber that have character, but we also know we're taken care of.
Amazing. Obviously, you and Simon, you've got your own areas of expertise, etc. Do you work with anybody else? Do you work in conjunction with any other designers or anything like that, or is it predominantly the two of you? And
it's predominantly us with the stools. We're starting to expand a little, as much as the energy I have at the moment. But
that's always the thing, isn't it? How much do you want to do?
Absolutely. I think because we do so many different elements within Par Avion, and I think we're always trying to do more, but because we make the actual products ourselves as well, it's kind of taking the time away to then go create new pieces, and obviously that we can't do everything. So at the moment we are working with some new people, some new artists, Florence Logan and Ruth House, who are making these incredible mobiles using brass.
Nice.
That some of it is locally sourced. Florence actually lives in France, so hers comes from France. But Ruth is a paper cut artist, and we're actually working with her to use our offcuts from our stools, which are quite large pieces, to create new sculptures that are hung from these brass wire pieces, basically.
Nice.
Yeah, so something really interesting.
Diversifying all over the place.
Yeah, and a bit of zero waste as well. It's trying to reuse what we don't use. So.
Perfect. And yeah, I mean, on that, obviously, we've got the UK's got their ambitious net zero 2050 target, which seems like a million miles away, but I'm sure it'll be here before we know it. I think you guys have pledged to be net zero by 2030 potentially. Do you think that the UK is doing enough to achieve this target? And what do you think some of the biggest challenges will be, as a whole, or maybe for you guys as a business in order to get to that? Or are you quite well on your way to that journey?
That's a really good question, and maybe not enough time in this short talk to talk about everything. But I think there are a lot of companies, a lot more than you think, that could probably get to net zero by 2030 if the right incentives were in place. And I think we're being ambitious, and I want to stay ambitious, because there are only a few things that really need to change. And I think I think this is maybe where you guys come in, is where do people get their energy from? And that's one of the things that we struggle with, because we currently rent our workshop, so we don't really have a lot of control.
No, you just do it. You just get what you get to a certain extent.
We get what we get, yeah. And we do our best in our own homes and in our personal lives.
Yeah.
But with the company, all we can do is put pressure on the local government to provide more sustainable options, and our landlords to say, well, we'd like, everyone in the building can work together to kind of push for these options. And one of the changes that has been made is that we've switched from like fluorescent and incandescent to the whole building is now LED and is on occupancy dimmers.
Yeah, and you are seeing that a lot more pressure now with with landlords that we talk to, and obviously the clients we have are the landlords. You see a lot more of that now, where whether it be properties, or whether it be residents, or whether it be manufacturing, or whatever else it might be. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure now coming from tenants, like yourselves.
Yeah.
Where they are, happy with the space, but we would like the power that we have to be a little bit more green, or we'd like to be a little bit more sustainable. So it's an interesting push on that coming from the people that are actually using the space, which is good.
Absolutely. And I would just add the one other thing to touch on that was carbon offsetting, which is something that I feel is a bit of a dirty word at the moment. It's something that really frustrates me, because it is very important. I think carbon offsetting is a great thing. But
it's the only option. For some, it is the only option.
Yeah, but it needs to be done correctly. And I think large corporations that can just pay a large sum of money to have trees planted is not necessarily the right option. I think planting trees, we can all agree, is a great thing. But when you're planting, say, a non-native species of tree in Malaysia, but then, all the emissions are over here in the UK, it's not really creating any balance for us here. And so what we try to do, and we talk about it a bit on our website, is we support a lot of super local carbon offsetting organizations, or even farmlands, such as the fenlands that have peat bogs, which are some of the best sources of carbon capture in the world, actually. So preserving those kinds of resources, and just trying not to take more out. I mean, even what we do, just woodworking, we have to cut down trees at some point, but we try and do that responsibly, and we try and do it so that another oak tree is planted in the same place it came from.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing. I think as long as you're doing that, then that's what's important. And I don't know if the right level of information is out there at the moment in the UK for people, and I think that's something that needs to improve, because we don't necessarily know what they can do, what they can't do. In order to be more sustainable, sometimes you just have to educate people better in order for them to know. So that's a challenge. But I suppose on that, do you have any advice or tips for individuals, whether it be business, personal, whatever it might be, to be more sustainable at the moment in time?
Yeah, I think talking about it more. I think education is the best thing you can do. As far as becoming sustainable as individuals, I think education is more important than, say, not using a tube of toothpaste or something like that. You know, I think making small life changes obviously puts pressure on the larger corporations, but those are the ones who are going to have to make those changes to really make this work. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do as individuals. So when we start talking to each other and educating each other about, you know, what is important to focus on, that's when we make larger changes in our communities. And I think, you know, we can start right here in Norwich. It's a nice small city, and it would be a great place to make some big changes, even just adding cycle lanes so that we use cars less, that sort of thing.
100%. 100%. And just in closing on that, have you seen any, you know, sustainable initiatives that you've gone, oh, do you know what, that's really good, I like that? Is there anything that stands out to you that you've seen and gone, yeah, that's a good initiative?
Here in Norwich?
Norwich or anywhere really, anything that just sort of stands out that you think, yeah, I like that?
Yeah, there's actually this amazing group of youthful people. I don't include myself there. But they're called Repeat, RE-PEAT, and they are working around the world with other farmers or just young people to save peat bogs, as I mentioned earlier. But the way that they're doing it, they have forums every year. They have online education resources. They go direct to like universities and places. They're great on social media, and just the way that they're spreading information about how you can make a difference by supporting them, or by supporting, you know, your local, I don't know, farm shop or farmers who are going peat free, etc., that keep the most important to them carbon capture in the world from disappearing, basically. So I think the way that they do it is what impresses me the most, is just they have so much energy and enthusiasm over something that is ultimately a rotting bog.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you go, people. Go out, check out Repeat, Re-Peat, is that right?
That's right.
Obviously, go check out Par Avion as well. Just go and check out the wonderful furniture that they're making. But Monica, it's been wonderful having you on. We could sit here and talk about this for hours.
Absolutely.
To be honest, in Indigo's Swan, we're going to be continuing along the sustainability piece, hopefully looking to work on a green event as well over the course of the next year. So may well get you along to that if you'd be up for that. And
sounds great.
Come and talk to that. So, but it's been lovely having you on. Lovely to chat to you today, and thank you ever so much.
Thank you, James.